All right, it is Yazoo time again. We're going to start up another episode. So I said I wasn't going to do another one, and I probably won't, but I'm going to start this one at the very least, and we'll see whether or not this thing ends up in the scrapyard. So, we got a small-ish list of minor things we've got to fix on this thing, and then 3 major things that need to be addressed. Top of the minor list is the air filter. I just put a new air filter on this thing when I resuscitated it 2 years ago. And for whatever reason, it's not letting the air in anymore. It looks perfectly clean. It looks very reasonable. Foam filter looks reasonable. I put 120 psi air through it and didn't see any dust come out of it. But this engine just will not stay running with the air filter on it. It goes for about 30 seconds and then stalls, and then it acts like it's starved for fuel because it's starved for air. And so it's like fluctuating between flooding itself out and running lean, but pull the air filter off, it runs just fine. Then I put just the paper filter back on, and then I cut 1.5 acres with the engine under substantial load the entire time. It didn't have a single issue. So it's just really strange. It either had like some combination of like bad fuel issues that it was still working through, despite me basically putting like 5 different kinds of gas in this thing and flooding it out and adding methanol and lead substitute and all sorts of shit. It's because it's sucking hot air off of the engine in combination with the foam filter restricting airflow and the paper filter restricting airflow. And it was just, she was struggling. But I took this top cover and the foam pre-filter off, and it ran just fine. And I could not stall the thing. I was bagging the shit out of it for cutting 1.5 acres. Couldn't stall it. And I drove it into the yard and just very slowly tried to cut some grass, and she ran for about 30 seconds with the blades engaged and died. And then struggled to limp it back over here, and then I just pulled the filter off, and then it ran fine. So something's up with the filter, cheap insurance. And then other minor things, like I ran this into a tree while I was cutting that 1.5 acres, and now it's all bent, scrapes on the ground, so I need to beat on that with some sledgehammers. This seat is just garbage, and it just slams into these bolts continuously. So I need to trim those bolts up a little bit and replace that missing bolt, and maybe get like another leaf spring or something I can jam in there just to firm that thing up. It is not built for fat boys. Anywho, maybe poke around with the ammeter and the hour meter and see if I can get them to work. Probably won't. And just other minor, I need to, at the very least, replace valve stems in these 2 tires. Probably need to tube them, just because they go flat after about a day. Not a major thing, but I ain't buying tires. And then we got the 3 major, another small thing is I need to hook this guy back up to the fuel switch and that guy back up to the fuel switch, and put a little gas in here and just flush this whole system and see if I can get replace these 30-something-year-old rubber lines or whatever, and just see if I can get this whole dual tank system to work and see whether or not that valve just pisses gas everywhere. And yeah, now on to the major things. She's still puking oil out of the oil breather. Not that bad anymore. But we probably do need to address that. Trouble is, we can't get the valve covers off because every single one of these grade 8 metric machine screws is seized into the aluminum block. And I've already snapped an ear off of the block over there trying to drill and tap that one. And that is a 5/16 bolt that's supposed to be like basically a 5/32 equivalent, like a, whatever it is, like 5mm size screw. And that's barely in there with any threads into aluminum. So we are not taking those valve covers off. But I think I might be able to get to the oil breather without taking the valve covers off, because I don't think the valve covers hold. The trouble is, I got to take like all of the accessories and all the cowling off just to take like 3 or 4 little bolts off the valley to get this oil breather out. They put everything over the top of it. So I might just get in there with the angle grinder and like cut this shit and, make it accessible. We'll see. But that just need to pull the cover off, clean up the gasket, take out the old breather, stuff a little steel wool in there, lay down some RTV, put the thing back down, and it's good to go. And that hose that runs from the breather up to the carburetor has a bit of a crack on the base, so that could just be It could just be that oil's blowing, is getting past the breather, blowing in there, and then running down, and then getting on top of the engine through that crack. And I might just be able to put some shrink wrap on that nipple or something, or some electrical tape or something like that and fix it. It's not a super pressure bearing hose. It just vents to atmosphere into the carburetor. That's kind of the lowest priority. The next priority is the fact that that vent on this hydraulic piston is just puking milky transaxle fluid, and the transaxle fluid is just 20W50 engine oil. But generally, you don't want milky oil puking out of your hydraulic system, because that hydraulic system feeds off the same reservoir for the transaxle, which means that milky hydraulic fluid is in the transaxle, which is not good. So that pump is pumping, cavitating, you know, water-filled oil all over the place, which is really great for the bearing surfaces and down in the transaxle, which is what I think is called not fucking good. So yeah, we need to address that. I don't know how water is getting in there. This is the hydraulic switchy jobber guy for this dude, and all the boots look fine up here. I don't see anywhere that, that rubber boot's perfectly fine. The only thing that immediately comes to mind is this vent, but I can't imagine that is getting enough water in there to really make much of a difference. So it's somehow getting into this pump somehow. I don't know where the water is coming in. We'll have to try and figure out where that is. And then I think probably we need to bypass that cylinder. I don't use this. I'm not going to use this. If there's a way that I can just, like, you know, take this line off, plug both sides of this, take these off, plug both sides of that, and just connect these two lines to each other, then do that. I don't need that piston for anything. If there's a way I can just deadhead or just bypass this entire system, then do that. Yeah, I don't really know how this works down in here. I'm a little scared of it, but, you know, it would be nice if I could just, like, disable this whole piston, and then I don't have to, then if the water's coming in through there, I don't have to worry about it. Well, then I won't have a vent, so maybe I don't want to do that. But anyway, at the very least, we're going to have to drain the transaxle and the hydraulic pump, get all that water out there, do a flush, and then change that filter down there. Looked up the part. It's like a $10 filter. I should be able to find it once I do a little bit more sleuthing. But it's going to probably be like, $40, $50 worth of 20W50, so that'll be fun. But that's the biggest bugaboo. If that transaxle goes, this thing's going to the scrapyard, because I am not sourcing another one of those. That is not my bag. Oh, and the other big thing is the brakes are locked up. Primarily, that one is basically entirely locked up. That one doesn't move as much as it should. So it looks like these are just like regular mechanical drum brakes. So I should just be able to pull that wheel off and get in there and just beat on things. And it should just, need some WD-40 and some wire wheeling and stuff like that. And I do have a parts diagram, so I know how it goes back together. But if there's any broken parts, we're kind of foobar because I don't think I can source them. So anyway, that's currently the laundry list of stuff I have to do. And I know there's some other minor things I'm forgetting. But yeah, need to address the oil breather, need to address the other oil breather and the whole transaxle transfluid situation, need to address the drum brakes, need to tube those tires, need to unbend that, need to replace these hoses and hook up the dual fuel system and purge it and test it and make sure all that works, need to investigate the ammeter and the hour meter. Oh yeah, parking brake. This doesn't, like, attach to anything. It was, like, seized before and I had to loosen a bolt to get it to unseize, but that ratchet pawl just, like, does not engage with the actual parking brake lever. So it would be nice to have that working. Replace that bolt, maybe jam a leaf spring or something in there, so that thing is a little bit stiffer, or figure out some way to add a bump stop, trim some bolts or something so that I'm not slamming my ass into those metal bolts every single time I hit a bump. And yeah, other general maintenance stuff. We're not going to clean it though. So yeah, so come along for the ride and we'll see whether or not I throw this thing in the river or not. All right, so I just got it running. It takes forever to start up. Don't know what it is. It's like the carburetor is like boiling dry or something. That's interesting. Wonder if she ran out of gas. But anyway, she was running just fine. But for whatever reason, it takes forever to get started, like a full like 15 seconds. It's like there's no gas in the carburetor or something. It's like it's all boiling off. It's like fuel shutoff's not working properly or something. Anyway, ran this flappy guy a couple of times, and it just puked milky oil out of there like instantly. So I think, so yeah, it's not a matter of the stuff getting overheated. Somehow it is now overfull with water or something. Shit is not right, because it's just a puking. But anyway, I'm gonna see if I can get her fire up real quick again. I don't know why she did that. Oh, saw some fire there. That was exciting. That's all I wanted to check. Well, choke lever's probably going to get up the ghost here. Not too long, but anyway. Yeah, brakes are not seized, so it seems to be a temperature-related thing. It still spins around just fine. And yeah, she is she full of shit. Anyway, ordered up a new trans filter for it. I hope it's the right size. I ordered Wix something or another, and I feel like that's bigger than what I ordered, but whatever, it'll fit. It was ordered based off of the transmission, or I found the factory part and found an alternative for it that was the same size from Wix, so we'll go with that. Don't know what I'm gonna do for trans fluid yet. I have automotive 20W50 in there, not the whole thing, but at least 1 quart of it. Don't know if it likes that or not. Didn't seem to mind it when I was cutting. I was looking at Hydrostat 20W50 oil, and it was more expensive than engine oil, so I think we're probably just going to go with engine oil because if this thing is filling up with water from the atmosphere somehow. I'm not going to pour a $60 gallon of Hydrostat fluid in there. I'll go buy a $35 a 5-quart thing of Walmart 20W50, but we'll see. So should be hopefully cheap insurance. Don't know how many quarts this thing takes. I don't know, 6 or something, 5 or 6 or something. I don't know. I'm just gonna go buy me a 5-quart thing of 20W50, and we'll screw out the filter, tilt the thing up. I don't know if it has a drain plug on here. If I just have to drain out the filter. That look like a drain plug to you? Yeah, it looks like a drain plug to me. So should be able to drain it, pull the filter off, and hopefully get that thing filled up. I can't really flush it, but we'll see. Maybe I'll pour a little bit there and run it around. And I don't know. I have no idea what the capacity of this thing is. But yeah, shit's gone south. Also, I bought a air filter for this because clearly something's wrong with the air filter. But anyway, that's just a quick little update, waiting on shit. Okay, so it's warmed up a bit. It's starting to stay light out a little bit longer. We're drinking beer, and I'm fixing to do something dumb with this hydrostat. We got parts in, and they didn't have any 20W50 at Tractor Supply. Well, they actually did have some hydrostatic oil, but it was fucking $33 for a gallon. This guy was $35 for 2.5 gallons. But it's not the right weight. It's 15W40 rather than 20W50. However, that was also $35. So I'm thinking I might be able to use this, viscosity modifier in the form of Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer, and modify this cheap as dirt 15W40 diesel oil, and use that in the hydrostat and get us up to a 20W50. And I mean, running, slightly thinner oil isn't really going to make that much of a difference. I can probably dump a little bit of gear oil in there if I really had to, but we'll see what happens. I mean, for fucking $35, I don't believe I'm going to need all 2.5 gallons. That's a lot cheaper than buying, some actual name brand hydrostatic fluid and then just having it fill up with water. And then if we just use some of that and I don't need it, I'll just dump it in the Mercedes. So it's a win-win. But anywho, a new Wix filter, 51551. This should be, hopefully, the correct size. And we have a new air filter. So I'm just going to huck the air filter on, and new hoses so that we can route the other tank in. So I'm going to throw the air filter on real quick, and then when I have some time, we're going to drain the hydrostat, dump that goop in there, swap the filter, and see if we can do something. Okay, new air filter's in, and I replaced these fuel lines and actually have it plumbed into this valve, and I freed this up. So no idea if this is working or not. Just tried to start it, wouldn't start. Tried to use brake clean, battery's about dead. I'm done with it for now. We'll get this thing fired up, move it on the slab on another day, and see about addressing the hydrostat. And then we'll dig into these brake drums and see what kind of horrors await us. Okay, so we tried starting the Yazoo and the battery's dead. So we're gonna charge it. Story of my life. Okay, so while I boil this battery, I'm trying to see if I can get the drain bolt free. I really would like to be able to throw the battery back in here and just put it on the concrete before I start doing anything, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to jack this thing up to get a drain pan under it. So we just came over here, cleaned off all the crud with a wire brush, sprayed it down with PB Blaster, or then blasted it with heat, then sprayed it down with PB Blaster, and then blasted it with a shit ton more heat, and then sprayed it with more PB Blaster. And I heard the damn water underneath the oil boiling as I heated up the pan down here. So there's definitely just a layer of water down in there. I'm hoping it has finished emulsifying, and well, actually, it's probably a good thing if I actually drain it right here, because I can get all that, water out, because it should hopefully be on the bottom of the system. Well, it's going to be up here and that shit. Nothing I can really do about that. I guess I could. These lines should probably be free, but this whole thing is just going to have water in it. Guess I could try and decouple these lines, but I don't really know how to not break hydraulic fittings, so we'll see. I'll see if I can blow that line out, drain the cylinder or something. I'll do some Googling. I still got to do some Googling to figure out how much Lucas I got to add into here to make 10W40, 20W50, so we'll figure that out. Probably not a lot. I think I can just find the viscosity of, how am I picking this shit up? I think I can just find the viscosity of both, and then just, figure out what the difference is between them and how much I need to add of what and all this stuff. Also, I still have this thing at 20W50 that was, out in the yard next to the Yazoo, which is probably a fair bit water as well. So we're gonna just go ahead and use that while we have it. And yeah, just generally, that's my plan, is just trying to fuck things up slightly less than they already are. Because we're not fixing them at this point. Also, it wouldn't be a lawnmower video on this channel unless I get out the grease gun and complain about it. And it was fighting the piss out of me when I was working on the other mower. So that'll be fun. Just going to go around and grease up everything I can on the deck. Get the spindles, get that guy, go on there, get the back wheel, that kind of stuff. Just while I'm, sitting here waiting. Okie dokie. Well, we got that guy loose. Actually had to tighten it because it wasn't all the way tight. And then it came loose. So that was interesting. But we're just going to run that back in until it's a little bit stiff, just so in case I forget about it, I don't blow everything up. Put a little bit of gas up here in the secondary tank. And whenever we get this thing started, if we can actually get the, fuel system to prime, we'll see if we can pull fuel from the second tank using that switch in the middle. And if the switch is a restriction, then we'll just go back to, plumbing directly into the other tank. So, but, we'll give it a shot if nothing else. Yeah, all right. Well, it's only been 2 hours, and charger says it's done. I think I can hear boiling starting. So just pop her on to automatic and see what automatic does. Yep, automatic says it's done. So we'll just stick her on trickle charge just to be safe. We'll just sit there for a minute while I go figure out some other stuff. Okay, so I just spent like, 30, 40 minutes crunching numbers and doing math and Googling things. And the viscosity of 15W40 of 40 weight at 100 degrees C, which is operating temperature, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, is 15, conveniently. And the viscosity of 20W50 at 100 degrees C, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, is 20 weight. Interesting, or is 20. Interestingly, that's off of the D445 test. So Lucas at 100 degrees C is 110. So this is basically gear oil. Yeah. So I did the math, and in order, at that operating temperature, in order to get the viscosity of this up to 20W50, I would need to mix it with as 5% this, which is a whole heck of a lot less than what Lucas recommends, which is 20%. Interesting. So I don't know whether or not mixing these actually affects the viscosity in the same way linearly. I can't really find any information on that. There's probably somebody out there who's done some tests. I'm sure one of these oil labs has done it at some point, but I just couldn't Google it on my phone, so I may need to go look at that before I get into this. But just the basic math says that it's a little bit less than 5% of this will take this up to a 20W50 at 100 degrees C. It'll take it from a 40 to a 50. Just ignore the winter rating. Winter rating of this is 110, whatever the viscosity is at 40 degrees C, and of the 20 weight, it is on average about 170. Can't find any data for Lucas at 40 degrees C, which is kind of the one that I care about more, because I'm pretty confident that, you know, that transaxle is not getting up to 100 degrees C when that thing is running. It's probably operating somewhere around like 150. So I care more about the low-end viscosity than I do about the high-end viscosity. But I can't find any data for Lucas. I'm assuming it's probably somewhere in the 6,000 range or something like that. Something crazy. I could go, you know what, I can probably go find a 10 weight, like a straight 10 weight oil, or like a gear oil, and just see what those come out as, just so I can get a ballpark. I think I'm probably going to go do that. But anyway, at the moment, I think I'm gonna huck the battery in and see if I can get this thing to crank so I can get it up here on the slab so I can work on it on concrete and not in the dirt, because I'm spoiled at this point. Okay, so we put the battery back in, I've greased all the grease points, and still can't get this stupid piece of shit to start. I do not know what the hell is wrong with this thing. We have the new air cleaner on there. Just pulled the plugs, cleaned the plugs because they were soaking wet, things flooded. Tried spraying brake parts cleaner, starting fluid, E-free gas, running it with and without choke. I have, in fact, gotten all of the system primed, and it looks like this guy does not leak because, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's full of gas. So that's working. I did put gas in there, so we'll try and prime that if we ever get this thing running. Bowl is full. It seems like everything in the carburetor just boils off. And that's why it takes forever to get started every single time, because the whole thing is just deprimed and it won't start on anything except for itemized gas straight out of the carb. So it's just a big pain in the ass. I didn't get it, after I cleaned off the spark plugs, I didn't get it to, you know, do its regular backfiring thing. It didn't explode, but it was shooting fire out of the top. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure I just killed the battery again, but we'll see one last time whether or not she decides to start. Yeah, battery's very sad. Yeah, I got one more crank out of it, then we gotta charge the battery again. God, I fucking love this stupid piece of shit mower. All right, because y'all asked nicely, I'll put in some more battery boiling content, because I know that's what all of y'all are coming here for. You come here to see me drink, cuss at grease guns, and then boil batteries, and then just generally be miserable. All right, so I recharged that battery, put it back in here, and tried to get the damn thing to crank, and I cannot get it to crank again. I'm back to now thinking that there is seriously something wrong with this ignition. I think this CDI box has failed. I think one of the subcomponents in there, inside of, you know, that mass of, you know, epoxy-soaked circuitry has burnt out or something, because it seems like it's trying to fire with, like, full RPM timing when, you know, it's cranking at, like, 400 RPM. I got it to run for a split second, just like 3 or 4 revolutions, and then it died. And it just, if I run it with the choke open, it just backfires continuously and is literally just fire coming out of the mouth. Not a fireball, but just literally flames coming out of the mouth. If I put the choke on, it doesn't fire at all, and then eventually it will, you know, after fire, detonate, whatever the hell you call it, and just, you know, blow out the exhaust. But I can't get it to actually, you know, fire properly. It's not fuel and air related, because I can do it with the air filter on, the air filter off, with the choke on, with the choke off, spraying carb cleaner down the mouth, spraying brake cleaner down the mouth, spraying starting fluid down the mouth, spraying E-free gas, spraying 2-stroke gas, spraying pump gas down the mouth, with the carburetor prime, with the carburetor not prime, with the bowl full, with the bowl not full. No amount or variation of fuel or air makes a difference, other than it backfires when the carb is on, and then it detonates in the exhaust, or it backfires when the choke is open, and then it detonates in the exhaust when the choke is closed. And then it also backfires too on top of that. So, I mean, the compression's fine. The spark plugs are fine. It's got spark. The spark is there. I just think the timing is fucked. And so the only thing that it could be on something like this that has, you know, electronic ignition, where it is just this little doohickey jobber guy right here is what controls all the timing on the engine, except for, you know, the coils and the stator and all that shit. I think that's just burnout. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, unless there's like just weird wiring connection issues or something. Because it would not be this inconsistent. Like, I've never had an engine that wouldn't touch off with, you know, when I'm spraying gas right down the mouth, except for that Johnson over there, which had a burnout CDI box. And when I replaced that, the damn thing ran fine after that. And that also has just horrid compression issues. You know, thing's got like 50 PSI on both cylinders. It's a two-stroke on top of that. This thing, it's just a regular V-twin. And I mean, I'm dumping gas down the mouth. I'm running the damn thing lean, and it's not even trying to run. It's just fucking coughing and spitting and burping. The only thing I can think of is timing, you know. Compression's fine. You know, the actual spark plugs and the amount of spark that is being supplied and the strength of the spark is fine. It's getting plenty of air. It's getting plenty of fuel. Varying that doesn't change anything. That's the only thing I can think of. So I'm going to attempt to source one of these CDI boxes for a Kohler Command 22. That is a number that's on it. I don't know what that means, but we're going to look at that. Because I can't even get the thing up there onto the slab. Like, the only way I can get it up there is to push it. And I don't have anything I can push it with. I'm not pushing it with the damn Jeep. That damn brush guard is just mounted to the bumper, which is just like, you know, 18 gauge sheet steel. So I'll just rip my damn bumper off. That thing, don't even get me started on that thing. Its carburetor's all fucked, and it's like 1400 RPM when you're trying to shift gears, and the battery's dead. Yeah, oh god. This thing's getting closer and closer to getting pushed right off the end of that causeway down into the creek. Mark my words, don't shape up. Look at that fucking toad. Holy shit. So, this CDI box is in fact literally just an ignition advance module. So, this is actually a common problem, and my suspicions were confirmed after some Googling. This literally just controls ignition advance. That's all it does. So if you don't have one of these guys, it's trying to fire with super advanced ignition all the time. And that's the problem I'm having at the moment. I just looked up, there's a conversion kit you can get, and you can replace both coils mounted to the stator on this thing, so that it just runs like a regular mower. I'm assuming you lose performance doing that, but it totally bypasses this whole CDI box bullshit. However, it's like $130 for like a Chinesium version of it. So I don't know if I want to do that. I'm just going to try and see if I can get this thing to run and get it up here and get into this transmission, because if this transmission is fucked, I'm not throwing any more money at this damn thing. I'm definitely not throwing 150 fucking bucks on a damn conversion kit that I'm not really going to be able to do on account of, you know, that. Although I don't know if I need to take valve covers off to get this whole plastic cover off to get into the ignition coils or not. I'm assuming the stator and everything is on this side and not on this side. And there's a chance I can get this, you know, this glass-filled nylon backing off of here and get in there. But yeah, rather would prefer not to do that if at all possible. We shall see. I think there's a guy locally who fixes mowers. I don't think he has junk mowers in his yard though. I'll poke around and see if I can get another one of these modules to swap this out with, or, you know, yeah, I already spent fucking whatever it was, $50-something on that big glug of diesel oil. The only reason I spent that much money is because it was, one, on sale, and two, I can put it in the Mercedes if I don't put it in this thing. So yeah, don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I guess this piece of shit will just sit here in the yard for another 7 months until I figure out whether or not I want to throw $150 on this or throw it on Facebook Marketplace for $100. We'll see. Okay, so after doing some research, this here is the SAM, the something advanced module, and it controls ignition advance. So if that guy goes, your ignition timing is just all over the place, which is exactly what's happening. So I'm pretty confident that's the problem. So we're kind of stuck right now. And I got to do some more research and figure out what exactly I need to do. But it could just be that this entire thing is kaput because that guy failed and I can't buy a new one. So we shall see. Theoretically, it could be repaired if you had... Will you hush up, you stinking gulls? Theoretically, it could be repaired, but you'd have to have the entire electrical schematic in front of you, a Dremel, several hours of time, and be an electrical engineer that knows exactly what they're doing with, about $1,000 worth of testing equipment, which I don't have any of that. So I have no way to test this thing, and even if I did, in order to repair it, you'd have to Dremel out all the epoxy in there, get down to the subcomponents, and replace them, and then re-epoxy everything, and that is, even my time is cheap, and even with me, that would cost more than just buying one of these, so we're not going down that road. But that's kind of a shame that, they just put some digital shit on here and then just made this engine, complete, throwaway. Because it just won't run. Great. Anyway, I'm going to get back to researching and see what I can find, and hopefully I can find a simple solution for this. But I really don't want to throw $150 at this mower, on top of all the money that I've already spent. So this could just become a parts mower, and it'll be sold for scrap. We shall see. So we are on to recharge of the battery number 3 in the last month, and bush ice number 4 in the last 3 hours. And I am now 100% confident I'm a high-functioning alcoholic. Because I still somehow managed to function highly and still somehow managed to be an alcoholic. But anywho, we're charging this battery. It almost fired off. So don't really know what that means, but I'm pretty confident it's that CDI box. But we'll get to that at some point. I got kind of some other stuff that's distracting me. And one of those things is... just how fucking thick is this? What is the goop ratio on the engine, honey? And that is bothering me. All right, so we have officially boiled the piss out of this pig for fucking 48 hours, and may or may not have started eating through the polyurethane on the bench. So now we're charging the Corvette battery, unrelated, and we'll throw this thing back in there and see if we can make something happen. It's not going to, but a man can dream. A man can dream. So this tire just went flat suddenly for no reason. It's really weird. It just had air in it for however many, 10 years, however long, and then just gave it the ghost suddenly. Also put the battery back in. Well, by some miracle, I got the thing started 2 months later. Just got out and hopped on it, and she decided she wanted to go. Ran her around, cut some grass for about 5 minutes. She started stalling, parked her back over here, and she is just puking out of here now. So I think passively we are getting a lot of water into that transaxle. But anywho, she's on the slab now, which means we can actually work on it. So we'll see if we ever do that or not. All right, so it's been a couple months or more. And I've just been out here drinking beer, staring at this Yazoo, and I still don't know what the hell to do with this thing, because we're at the point where we don't know whether or not this thing is savable on 2 separate fronts simultaneously without me throwing money on it, and I have no use for this fucking mower. My plan is to get rid of it once I fix it, or if it doesn't work, to get rid of it. It's just whether or not this goes to the dump or goes to somebody who might want a dump mower. And I have just been thinking and looking and pondering and pontificating and poring over this thing, and I still don't know how the hell water is getting in the transaxle. It has to be coming from the top down. Water sinks. So if the water can get into the transmission, it will eventually get itself to the pan, so long as it has a path to follow. And I can only think, if it was a high pressure side leak, we would see it. There would be a leak. If it was a passive leak, if it was on the bottom of the transmission, we would see a leak. If it was just a gaping hole, we would see a leak. This thing has been sitting here in the rain. We've gotten feet of rain over the last couple of months, and there is not a single damn oil stain anywhere. Lots of rust stains, which is exciting, but no oil stains. So no oil has come out of this transmission, which means that the water is getting in from somewhere at the top, above the max level of the fluid in the transmission, and it is working its way into the transaxle. The only thing I can think of, because again, it's not a high pressure leak, it doesn't leak when it's pressurized, except for that breather, is, you know, it's not the dipstick, because the dipstick is perched and it lips over it. You know, it's a nut that threads down onto a perched male coupler, so it would have to go up and over the threads and down into the transmission. This, I believe, is a low pressure line that goes down there at a transaxle. Theoretically, it could be leaking around those fittings, but again, male fitting with a hose on it, with a clamp. We've not seen any oil leaks out of those. I don't see how it's going around a hose and up into it unless there's a hole in the line. Again, don't see any signs of oil. These guys are all dry as a bone. The hose looks pretty damn good. Could be this. You know, this valve, this is up here, this is above things. This could allow fluid to get in it and go down into the system. But that's a pressurized system. It's not leaking, no signs of oil. There's a rubber boot there. It's sealed. Rubber looks good. Ain't getting in there. The only thing I can conceivably think of is that it's this breather. It could just be that this breather is just not waterproof. And it's just letting water in every time it rains. And because our fucking humidity out here is 100%, 100% of the time, every single morning there's an 1/8 inch layer of water on here. So if it just lands on here, it can just wick in there. And it just does that every single day, every time it rains, every morning, nonstop. That could put a sizable amount of water in this thing. I mean, it sat out there in a hayfield for, what, a year? Well, my cousin had it, a year and a half. So it could have just been, because when I checked the transmission, when it was out there in the field, I did not see water in the transmission. It could have just been that it was just in this cylinder. And when I ran the cylinder and lifted this up, it pushed all that water into the transaxle and then pulled it back out, and just doing that mixed it. It could be that this whole fucking cylinder is just full of water right now. I don't know. So I'm going to turn the light on. And I'm going to take this 16th wrench. And I'm just going to crack this breather off. And once this guy is off, I'm just going to press up on this piston and just see what the hell comes out of here. You know? Yeah, because that's nothing special. I mean, you saw it puking water and oil and shit. I don't think that's correct. So this fucker could just be straight full of rainwater. Well, there's just nothing in there. So there's nothing in this piston. So that's interesting. Is this supposed to do that? Anywho, I'm thinking something about this breather piston combo something is the root cause of our transmission problem. And I'm just hoping the transmission is not so roasted, because I did run this thing for probably 5 or 6 hours with it having a potentially sizable amount of water inside of the transmission for that whole time. So yeah, at the very least, I'm going to drain this transmission and just see what comes out of it. And if it's a silver slurry, this thing might just have to go to the scrapyard, because there is nothing I can do about this transmission. I can't even find out what model this transmission is from Hydro Gear or anything. It's a Hydro Gear transmission. I can't find shit about it. Like, if something in this transmission goes horribly wrong, or it wears out, or it stops working, I can't fix it. I don't know where the hell I would find another transmission. These three-wheelers are already hard enough to find as it is. To find a scrap one with a compatible transmission and to work it in that works and mounts and everything, that's not worth it. Because again, I have no use for this. I've got a zero turn down in the shed. I've got access to fucking, I can get a free riding lawnmower any day of the damn week. I got 6 push mowers. I don't need this. It's neat, it's interesting, it's free, but it just comes with a lot of baggage. So I got all the parts. I think I'm going to be able to just put everything back together, or drain the transaxle, flush it, refill it, put it all back together. I'm going to try and see if I can find a breather. That's the main reason I'm pulling this out, is to go get the actual thread pitch. To get a breather with a hood on it, something that, you know, comes out and just has like a shroud over the top of it, or some sort of something doohickey jobber on the top that doesn't let water into it, and just see if that is a better solution. see if it makes it stop. I don't know. We'll see. And then we still have to you know, cross the bridge when it comes to this Kohler, because this SAM is defective. It's a literal black box. It is an epoxy-soaked blob of electronics. I have no comprehension of what is even in there. So even if I understood how it failed and what I needed to replace, I'm going in blind. It's like doing open heart surgery blind. You don't know what is in there. It's black epoxy. So you would have to just Dremel in there, knowing precisely where the component is, down there to the board, not too deep to cut into the board, cut the component off, desolder it, or cut it off from both sides, desolder it, and put a new component on. I'm assuming, because that doesn't feel hollow. And you know, the thing is, I don't know. I don't have a schematic for this. I don't know the component parts or how it would fail or anything, or how to fix it or how to test it. No one knows. You just buy a new one and you put it on there. They don't sell them anymore. They only have used ones. All the used ones are probably also broken. So, and I mean, this was a known problem. Kohler literally came out with a conversion kit because these things kept failing. So my only option is to buy a conversion kit. And we're looking at about $200, a little bit less, about 170, but probably going to end up being closer to $200 after tax and ship and all that shit. And then I still have to get in here, get this out of here, get this off of here. I'm hoping I can get the whole engine cover out of here without taking that valve cover off, or that valve cover, because let's be real, neither of them are coming out. Probably all the bolts on this thing are fused. So I'll have to somehow figure out how to get this back cover off of here so that I can put a flywheel puller on there to pull the flywheel to get in there to change the damn coils, and then change the flywheel, and then bypass that thing on top of it. And oh my God, it's a pile of work for something I don't even want. But I just hate to scrap something. So anyway, that's why it's taking forever. It's because I'm just sitting around procrastinating, because I don't want to spend money on this thing, but at the same time I don't want to throw it away. But I also want it off of my slab, so I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever fix it. I don't know when the hell I'm going to end up getting a pole barn. Probably never. Don't really have a place for it. I guess I could get a cover over this or something. I don't know. So I'm just racking my brain thinking about what I need to do or when I need to do. Maybe I'll win the lottery or something. I'll just take that as if I get a $200 fucking check or something, or find a damn wallet on the side of the road or something, and I'll just take that as a sign to get the conversion kit, go with it. I don't know. I got beer to drink. I'm done thinking about it tonight. I'm going to get some threads and put that back in, and maybe go look up some breathers. I fucking hate seasons. Alright, so I don't know shit about hydraulic systems, and I think it just finally dawned on me what the leak is. I'm pretty confident that this is not supposed to be watertight. It's not even supposed to be airtight. I just realized, you know, here's the piston. There is a seal in here, and that seal only comes down to here. And then when this pressurizes, that pushes this up, and then this breather is here so that the air in the tube can get out and the air in the tube can come back in. The fact that this was puking oil means that oil got past that seal, and that was being puked out of the piston. So I believe this is in fact the culprit. So while this thing is all the way down, if this thing fills up with water, you get a whole pile of water in this tube. And then when you ram this thing back forward, it pukes all the water and other shit back out of the out of that breather. But then when it pulls it back down, if that seal is not perfect, it's pulling the water, you know, it's blowing oil and water out the top of it, but it's probably also sucking it back on there when it's pulling negative pressure. So I think this is in fact the problem. And because I'm a fucking idiot and I don't know how this shit works, and I didn't check earlier, I didn't realize this. But yeah, if this is just an empty air void and this is sitting, then yeah, this fucker could fill the whole way up with water. And then when you run this thing up, it's got to push that water out somewhere. And if it's been fucking sitting here full of water, it's going to rust the fucking liner inside of there, which is then going to tear up the rubber seal, which is then when you put pressure on it and it tries to pressurize water, it's got two hydraulic forces pushing against each other, and only so much water can come out of this fucking breather at a time. And so some of that water is going to push past that piston. So it's going to just basically flow all the way around that. That's just going to tear it up even more. So I think this is actually how it's getting in there. And I think the reason why it looked good when I initially pulled it out was because the water was all in this hydraulic cylinder, and the cylinder was full of water. And so when I actually ran it, I ran that piston up and down several times, which forced water into the system, and then also forced oily water out of there. So theoretically, there's probably not actually all that much water in the transaxle, because it would only be what got past that seal while the thing was running under pressure. Because I don't think the oil would have been immiscible in water, and the water would have had to have displaced that oil and flown past it, and I don't think the water had the ability to do that. Given that it's, you know, fucking 2050 and all that. So theoretically, this thing's not actually all that roached, and there's probably not all that much water in there. So its transmission's probably actually savable if my fucking manic drunk ramblings, brain ramblings, are to be believed. And generally, I just go along with whatever the hell those say, because, I mean, you only got so much time in the day. Might as well let the drunk man inside your head do some of the thinking for you. So I'm going to throw this back in here, and I'm going to... So this breather's probably fine. I just need to find a way to cover it. I need something else for... I mean, this piston's probably fucked. But this doesn't look to be anything super heavy duty, so that can probably actually be picked up. But for what I'm doing, I don't really care. You know, if it pukes oil, it pukes oil. I just have to find a way, you know, for this breather to not, you know, fill up with water. That would be nice. So, if I can find some sort of little cap or bell end or something to go on top of there, I might be able to get a hose clamp and just, like, put, like, some sort of, like, bell over the top of this with a leg on it, put a hose clamp right here that just holds that right there, so it still allows air in, but it just doesn't allow rain and shit down onto it. That would probably work. So that might be something I can do. So anyway, I'll think on that, and eventually at some point, I've already got the transmission filter. I was going to put 15W40 in this, and I had this whole harebrained scheme where I started going off on a completely different rabbit hole, because I wanted to figure out what the fucking cold flow viscosity of Lucas heavy duty oil stabilizer was, and you can't find it posted. You can find the hot flow rate, which is a lot. It's fucking heavier than gear oil. I mean, duh, just look at this shit. But I want to know how much Lucas I needed to mix into 15W40 in order to be able to put it in this transmission, because I couldn't find any 20W50 when I was looking for it. But then it's been like 5 months, and I got to Walmart, and I just bought some cheap-ass 20W50, because apparently Walmart does actually sell 20W50. It's just, they hide it. So anyway, we just got the cheapest 20W50 and the cheapest filter I could get. Actually, I think it's a Wix filter. And we're just going to slap it in here and, you know, see what the hell happens. But I'm going to go noodle on a cover for that breather right quick. All right, so here is my cockamamie idea to try and keep water out of the breather. And that is to take an old CO2 canister, cut the bottom of it off, cut the sides off of it, make 2 little wings on it, and then hose clamp it over the top of the breather. So we'll see if that does anything. And at least it'll let us know whether or not it was the breather or not. You know, that's not going to let any water in there unless I, you know, drive the thing underwater, in which case it's in the river then, and it's not my problem anymore. That's the Army Corps engineer's problem at that point. But anywho, yeah, I think, so we're going to just dig into this transmission at a later date and just hope we don't see a bunch of fucking silver sludge come out the bottom of that thing when we drain it. All right, so it's another day and I'm drunk again, which is why the camera's doing this, and I'm not doing that on purpose. But anyway, I've just been thinking on this Spark Advanced module, and the only way to fix this thing is to get a new flywheel, a new set of coils, and then cut that guy out of there. I'm wondering, is there some sort of fucking hack way I could bypass this SAM without having to replace the flywheel and coils and just get this thing to fucking run with the regular advanced timing? Is there some sort of fucking doohickey, who's it I could put in here? I know they make digital ignition systems for carbureted distributed engines. So theoretically, this could be converted to digital ignition. It's got a certain set advance right now. The advance is set by the fucking flywheel and the position of the coils. If I move one of those relative to the other, that changes the timing of ignition. Now, I don't know what the replacement coils are, how they're different, whether or not there's like some very narrow margin or something that these current coils are working under or something, and whether or not the new replacement coils broaden that out or not, or if, you know, there's just a fucking different size magnet or something like that. I don't know. But theoretically, there could be something I could put in here that could delay ignition by, you know, a couple fucking microseconds or whatever the hell I would need, by the equivalent to a couple of degrees, then I could be able to start the engine and then turn off and then have the engine run. And I'm no electro magician. And that's the end of the sentence. I don't know how to fucking do that. I just know that it can be done. Theoretically, I think it can be done. I think there's some way I could make an analog system that could just let me advance timing. And I mean, it would be a hack way. And also, I'm trying to hold back, like, whatever it is, fucking 40,000 volts or something. 4,000, I don't know how many volts one of these fucking coils puts out. So I don't know what the hell kind of components it would take to retard, you know, that kind of voltage. But something, I feel like there's got to be a way that I could interfere with the timing of this motor and get it going, or at least limping in its current condition. You know, I could fuck with the gap of the spark, maybe. If I made the fucking spark gap just a little bit longer, that would delay timing just a little bit more, because I'm assuming it's hella advanced right now, just by default. If I did that, and if I somehow got something in the way, I mean, theoretically, you could also take the flywheel off and get a machine shop to cut a new fucking Woodruff key slot in it and just reclock the flywheel in a different position. I don't know whether or not that fucking key would shear off or anything, but theoretically, that's something that's could be possible. And if the fucking coils are just mounted to the crankcase, you could also just make a bracket, like just a flat plate that goes in between the fucking crankcase and the fucking coils, and just move the coils. That's something that's theoretically possible. I mean, I'm thinking on this now, and I don't know enough to know that I don't know enough. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I got all this stuff running through my head, and I'm wondering how the hell I can not spend money on this thing. I mean, if I have to go fucking, you know, buy an Arduino or something and fucking learn how to code and shit like that, we're already past the point of no return, and I'm going to end up wasting more money than it would have cost, money and time than it would have just been to replace the fucking flywheel and coils. But I'm wondering, could I somehow put a plate on there, like a fucking bracket with like a drop down on it that could offset the coils to then fuck with the advance enough that I can actually get this thing to fire off? Is that theoretically possible? Could I fucking do that? I don't fucking know. I'm gonna fucking sleep on it and wonder, and it's just running through my head, and I'm wondering if I can somehow reclock the fucking timing on this engine. I have no way to fucking do that. I guess actually I could cut slots in the fucking, in a bracket. But then I would have no way to, I just have to use some really fucking big washers. God, fucking timing that would be a pain in the ass. I'm just wondering. I'm thinking. All right? Because it won't start, because I already tried. And, oh God, that's stiff. You don't want to do the start thing. Not even trying to touch off anymore, so I assume the SAM is just totally gone. So, yeah. I don't know, but I feel like there's got to be a way that I can jury rig this thing to fucking run at like half power or something. Who knows? Well, I cranked this thing, and I used it to fucking lift up the fucking deck. And so, I don't think that's O-rings blown. I guess, I mean, not. I mean, I just picked up the whole mower with that, which is also good to know, because I could also use that to get underneath there to do the transmission. But this piston seems to be fine. It seems to be holding. It's not, you know, it's let out about that much in fucking 30 seconds or something. But I mean, for what it's doing, it's fine. Doesn't seem to be blowing shit past it. So I don't know. It might just be over. All I can assume is that it's just somehow water has just worked its way down through there, because I tried turning that thing over and shaking it out, dumping it. There's nothing in there. So all the oil that's in that cylinder drained out, and I just pumped it all back up. So yeah, it's interesting to me how all this shit works. Maybe I should just leave that on the hold setting or something. Is there anything left in here? But you can just crank this thing and do that and lift it. Can't do it one-handed, but you know what I mean. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just drinking and fucking rambling. But I'm gonna do something with this transmission here. I think, what fucking time is it? It's fucking 6 o'clock on a Saturday. Fuck it. Let's take that damn, let's drain the damn transmission. Let's see what the fuck is in there. Well, that's straight water. So that's a good sign. Yeah, it's dripping out around the threads. I'm interested to see how much water is in there. Oofda. It's not nice. God, that's fucking way worse than I thought it was going to look. That is a... Well, when I was washing off my hands, it felt like it's more than 50% oil. So there may be a lot less water in there than it looks like, but God, it does not look good. There's the old filter. There's a lot of that going on. A lot more. I already wiped off a bunch of it, but there's a lot of silver in this, but I also have no idea whether or not this transmission filter's ever been replaced. So it could also just have fucking, 1,000+ hours of fucking transmission wear on it. I don't know. But anyway, new Wix filter is on there. Drain plug's back in. She's getting Walmart's finest, as well as this jug of 20W50 I gave to my cousin that sat in a field for a year. That's also got water in it, but I don't care at this point. So we're just gonna dump this sucker down the yap, and then we're just gonna keep dumping this shit down in there, and till it looks like it's full. Where the hell did I put the damn dipstick? Dipstick! Where you at? Found the dipstick. All right, drinky, drinky. Bloop, bloop, bloop. I have no idea what the capacity of this transmission is because I don't even know what this transmission is. But based off of the amount of oil water mixture I have there, that feels like about 1.5 gallons. Let's see, this is 5 quarts. Yeah, I'd say that's about 6 quarts probably is what goes in there. So I just dumped roughly 1 quart in. And we'll just keep, we'll just aim for 1 more jug. And if we're lucky, it's 5.5 quarts, and I have just enough fucking 20W50 to do this twice, because I'm sure there's another leak somewhere that's not that breather. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right, well, I put 6 quarts of oil in there, and it is now acutely over full. So good to know. Takes 5 quarts of oil. So we're just gonna run this thing, just to let that pump around a little bit, and see if it goes down at all. Doesn't look like it. So yeah, we're just gonna close that off and just let it be overfilled, because it's overfilled with oil. It can't be overfilled with water. Fucking big brain, fucking move right there. Yeah, probably shouldn't have that much oil in it, but I don't care anymore. So we still got 1 more big glug, so we got 1 more go at this, and we'll see whether or not any water gets in this thing. I guess we have enough spare oil in there now that we can, drain off any extra water that gets in there in the future. So, thinking ahead. Also, in the midst of all of that, I did find the serial number, so that's good. It was buried underneath a, 1/4-inch pile of smuts, but I have that now. Doesn't help me, but I have it. Well, it looked like this sucker splurted again at some point yesterday when we were testing it. So that's interesting. It's still doing that. Yeah, we'll just have to not use that hydraulic or buy a new one. I'm not buying a new one, so we just won't use it. Well, I think she might be over full, so we're gonna have to give her the good suck and get that down to something that's not puking oil out of the engine when it gets hot. All right, well, at the very least, we know that the breather on the top of that works, and that if you fill the breather beyond the ports for the breather, it breathes out oil. So that's good to know. But anyway, we're just going to flop our sucky boy down in there and just give it some suck. And we'll just pull out oil until it looks like it's at the right level. All right, well, we've got that back to a much more reasonable level. It seems to be at the bottom of the hash mark, with the transmission cold. So I'm going to call that good enough. And we'll just put this back together and not worry about it. And, it's doing that. So don't know what that's about, but the battery's dead. So I guess I'm going to throw that on charge. All right, so after waiting around for several months for $200 guilt-free to fall from the sky so I could buy a conversion kit for this, no one gave me any money. I just kept having to spend more money. So I just gave up and I bought a conversion kit for this because I'm sick of looking at this thing. And I want to be able to get rid of it, and I just don't like throwing shit away. So we're going to waste too much money fixing this engine, and hopefully the transmission isn't lunch. So that is coming, and so sometime here shortly, which I don't know why I'm saying this right now because it's literally just going to fucking jump cut to it here in a couple of seconds. We're going to work on this thing. So without any further ado, jump cut. And what is this right here? It's an actual name brand box. We got our ASAM to proper CDI ignition conversion kit, and it's got a flywheel in it. And I'd show you the model number that's on it, but it has my address, so I'm not going to do that. And anyway, I think I'm going to end this video here. I was just checking footage, and I got like an hour and something. I'm sure most of that is just inane rambling. So this is a preemptive outro. So if you're seeing this, it meant it was probably still inane rambling, but I was drunk enough to not care when I was editing. But anywho, that's the end of this video. So we'll get to the ignition conversion as well as the final test run to see if this thing is still alive and if I can cut my grass. You know, it's been 5 months. I still ain't cut my grass, but grass don't grow too much out here. Well, it does. It just doesn't get very thick. Just thick. But anywho, I digress. That's the end of this video. If you want to see the rest of this series, you got to go down there and like, comment, and smash that gray button to subscribe. And until next time, I'm out.